Welcome to Sollu Kaburz podcast, folks. And today we are dreaming. Actually, this is all a dream. So what you have to do is just go back a level up in the dream and subscribe and like and share to the podcast. And if you don't subscribe to the podcast, your time will start reversing, and you'll go back in time when you'll realize that you were already subscribed. So what were you even talking about? So welcome, welcome to this Christopher Nolan nitpicking kind of criticizing special. We are all Nolan cults. We have That's our teenage, that's our adult life, and I especially I was a Nolan cult. Still admire Nolan, but not really that blind of a cult fanboy to skip through his weaknesses and weak points. But I'm not a film critic myself, so I've got someone who is an absolute legend of film companion. You must be knowing him. He needs no introduction. Baradwaj Rangan, sir. Thank you very much for joining the podcast. You've been very kind with your time.
That I'm gonna if I become a superhero, that's going to be my title, Legend of Film Companion. I love that. It's kind of thank you so much for
Your
having me on the
epitaph.
show. Yeah, Legend of Film Companion. Wow, it's like thanks so much.
No, I've seen your interviews with Mani Ratnam and all that, and it's just that's my weekend mornings when I'm cooking and doing dishes, and yeah, you've been my
I'm
companion
so I'm
in
so
my
glad that
in my
I'm
country.
your kitchen companion. Forget film companion. I'm your kitchen companion. That's great. So
Absolutely, sir. There is a reason why I invited you here because I read I read this wonderful piece on Interstellar that you had written. You know what it is, and I suggest fans to read it to get the context of it. And I'll straight away jump into it. You said that Nolan simply makes simple stories look complex. He literally inflates the genres with his own little complexity, and after doing that, he's patting his back for having confused the audience. Is that what you're trying to get at?
so let me explain my relationship with Nolan, so to speak.
Mm,
So uh, following Memento, Prestige, Insomnia, great stuff. I'm like, wow, this is a genuinely interesting director. Who's kind of doing all these very Insomnia, especially. I think is a very underrated film because it's easy to like Prestige because there's so much of tricks and it's breathtaking the way it's pulled off. But Insomnia is again a very simple like cop killer kind of movie, like a cop versus killer. We've seen tons and tons and tons of those movies. It's practically like done to death. Even in India, we've seen so many of those films.
mm.
But to kind of infuse that texture, the coldness, the way the characters are written, the way the Al Pacino and Robin Williams characters are written, it's really a very nice movie. But what happened is around
I think it was
some
the remake of some Swedish movie, if I'm not wrong.
yeah
Insomnia.
yeah 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 so till then I'm like, wow, this guy's amazing. Like Prestige is my all-time favorite Nolan movie because it's just so beautifully constructed, like a little intricate Swiss toy box kind of a thing. I love that,
Mm.
right? But then he starts this Batman movie, The Dark Knight, and again, let me tell you, he I don't think that he's ever made a bad movie in his life, right? What So my point is not that he makes bad movies, definitely not. He's a very intelligent filmmaker. He's like really got like a unique signature and all that kind of stuff. But what I don't from Batman onwards, what kind of bugs me about his movie is that the elegance of his earlier films is not there anymore. It's almost as if suddenly somebody's saying, look, I'm an important filmmaker, I can't make those films anymore, I have to make like this really serious, like embedded with philosophies kind of film, you know.
Mm.
And 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 sometimes it works, sometimes it really works, but sometimes it just looks like he's pushing too much to kind of be taken seriously. Like in Interstellar, like you have the scientists, you're already showing this Matt Damon character, they're landing on that ice planet, right? And you're already showing this Matt Damon character there, and he's kind of representing man at his worst
Mm.
because he's like, I don't give a shit about you, I just want my survival. So he's representing man at his worst. But then you really have to go and name him MANN, man, like so that we get that. That's like pushing it too hard for some philosophical heft. That's the kind of stuff that bugs me about him. Not so I think so I watched all his films multiple times, and
Yeah.
and except Tenet, of course, which I was like, I have a history with that film. That's the one one jinx that keeps going, because when it was in theaters, I had COVID and all kinds of things happen, and I don't want to see it like on my TV.
Mm.
And some point I'll have to break it and watch it. But what I'm trying to say is that this is what bugs me about him. It's like, you're a damn cool filmmaker. You have the coolest ideas in pop commercial cinema right now.
Yeah.
But he somehow wants to be Stanley Kubrick. And I'm like, why, what is that ambition? Everything, you're already this very cool, very unique director. Why are you trying to be somebody else? Why are you trying to have all this philosophical heft that is like, some amount of philosophical heft is there in the premise itself, but you're trying to like stuff it with so much that your films become inflated.
Yeah.
That's my problem with it. That's the only problem.
You stuff it with poetries, you stuff it with the monologues and love, how it transcends through time and so on.
Yeah, and my God, the characters keep saying the same things over and over and over. Like the man, there's a difference between and believe me, this is a problem we talk about usually with Indian cinema, right? In Tamil cinema, for example, we keep saying, oh my God, why do you need so much exposition? Why do you need so much stuff? But here, it's very rare to find a major filmmaker relies so much on exposition.
Right.
It's very rare, because like you look at a Scorsese film or something like that, he won't tell you everything. He'll kind of sometimes show you or lay it out in a scene or something like that. Here, every single thing is underlined by a dialogue just so that we don't miss it. And it's not even a voiceover. So it's not a parallel thing either. It's the exact same thing said.
Can I tell you one example? Right before that wormhole scene in the Interstellar, this guy literally takes out a paper and pencil and explain him about the wormhole when the wormhole is right there. It's like explaining a heart surgeon about the structure of heart right before a heart surgery, so that the audience can understand.
Yeah, so it's like if you guys didn't know about that, you wouldn't be there that deep in space.
Yeah.
So either do it like right before, like at the start or something, and then start, because the way he does it is very cool, because he pierces a pencil and that's again very cool. Like, it's very cool. Isn't that what he does? He pierces the pencil or something, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Yep.
But why do, like, at that point, that's such a bag of unrelated and insulting information to the people in the there, because yes, you are telling it to Matthew McConaughey, who's not technically an astronaut and all that, and therefore you're kind of justified. But that man, if he did not, wormhole is such an elementary concept in that kind of physics, that if you don't know that, you're not going to be in space, dude, because they can't just take a corn farmer and suddenly put him in a spacecraft and send him. There's some time lapse. This man has learned about.
And he plants characters that ask the questions on behalf of the audience. Like, for example, the Ellen Page character in the Inception.
Yeah. So that's again something that what about this? So his way of thinking is goddamn genius. It's just incredible that a mind can work like this. It's like, it's the most brilliant mind right now working in the movies, in terms of pure thinking and in terms of plot structure. I would compare him with people like J.K. Rowling, who I have the greatest respect for, because the way she had that entire Harry Potter universe inside her head over 7 books is just mind-blowing for me, because you may not like her writing style, you may not like some of the things, but the way she had that entire world in her head over 7 books is just one of the great pop culture things that I've ever seen, because I consume those books like mad, and every time I read those books, I was like, oh my God, she already knew in book 1 that book 3 was going to happen in book 3. Oh my God, then I'm in book 4, and she's predicted this, kind of hinted at this, and just like that, the way she had that, that requires a very amazing kind of brain, and there are few people who have it, and this guy's one of them. So it kind of, I think, frustrates me to see that he has this amazing ability, but at the same time, he kind of overdoes the explaining part. But then, to be fair, he does say that he admits to this exposition, and he says that when he makes the kind of films that he does, he says that the audience needs that kind of exposition, because you're talking to a commercial mainstream kind of audience or whatever it is. I don't know how true or not true it is, but somehow
it's kind of a lazy filmmaking, right? Just dialogue to explain it away or kind of thing? Or
No, see, the thing is, dialogue to explain it away is not a problem.
Mhm.
Dialogue to explain a wormhole just before a wormhole is a problem.
Yeah,
You're talking about it at the start. See, the whole point of a screenplay is to make things appear as unexpected and as invisible as possible.
mm,
So the idea is that you should not give away things just before you should plant them
right.
throughout, so that when they come up later, the audience is already, they have
There
been
should be a
incepted.
callback.
It's, yeah, they've all, the audience has already been incepted with the idea, so to
Right.
speak. So it's like, that inception has already happened.
I like the
So
pun.
there should be a, it should be, there should be a callback. And I feel
Mm,
that sometimes doesn't happen as much as this guy.
right.
But you know what, yeah, he's the guy. I wish he had a rough time with Tenet, because it opened during the pandemic. It was
Mm,
supposed to be the movie that showed people that the box office would come again.
yeah.
It was supposed to be the master of Hollywood.
Mm,
But it got screwed in America because most theaters didn't open. I mean, it did respectably,
mm,
but nothing like what a Christopher Nolan movie was supposed to be. And I think its reviews are also pretty mixed. It's like
yeah.
I'm not. I don't think it's really got
It's the
like a
same. I
very.
have the same view. I have a mixed view for Tenet. First of all, I have to get through the story and understand it. But that's a different story. But for me, don't you think that is his USP, right? Nolan's point, that the selling point of Nolan movie is audience have to find out what the story is, right?
Right, but then see, I'll give an example of a space movie which I love.
Mm,
Alfonso Cuarón's Gravity.
yeah.
I love that movie, okay, because that's a very complex story. On the one hand, it's just a story of this lost astronaut who has to get back to Earth,
Mm,
right? But on the other, but the subtext is that a grieving person, for a grieving person, the space journey and getting back becomes a form of therapy that
mhm.
helps her, uh, like like expunge the grief out of a system. And that whole thing, I think that's brilliant, because on the one hand you have a traditional space movie where, oh my god, I'm getting lost, my whatever sat nav is not working,
Right.
whatever is not working is not working. But oh my, how am I going to do something? I have to repair this, the radio controller is not something jammed, whatever. But that's just the surface, right? It's like the subtext is all about this grieving. Is she, like, has she lost a daughter or something? It's like
Yeah.
a
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's the grief that she has, and that is the thing that she kind of overcomes. And the last scene is sensational, because she's almost like primal man, like primal humankind. She's
Mm,
picking herself out of the ocean and kind of walking like unsteadily out of that ooze. That's the movie. And
right.
it's done so beautifully, because there is George Clooney is not at any point saying, yeah, I know you're grieving, so therefore
Mm,
that's not happening at all.
yeah.
That's what is good for making. So you have two levels of the movie playing. For those who can understand, or who are only interested in the surface level,
Mm,
the movie is a space adventure.
right.
Those who want to go below and dig into a movie's themes and subtext and all that, it's the space adventure plus this.
Yeah.
So I'm saying you can have both without explaining to audience that Gravity was a monster hit. It was
Yeah.
it played for a like freaking year or something in Chennai, if I remember right. It's like a
And the
like
visual symbolism in Gravity as well, right? For example, there is the scene where the actress is floating as if she's in an embryo, and
embryo. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
even in the climax, she comes out of the water as if life is coming out of the water, and
Coming of
both
water. Yeah.
both of those messages were conveyed without any lines.
Any lines. So I'm saying that I don't buy Nolan's logic that the audience has to understand, because
Mm,
the audience either will understand or not understand. Yeah, see,
right.
like most movies, commercial movies have to play on two levels.
Mm,
One is at the most basic level, and one is at the, I'll take one very very simple example, right?
mhm.
uh, like a Bond movie.
Right.
Now, the recent Daniel Craig movies, they've become more serious, and they've started examining things about, being an assassin, what the toll that it can take on you,
Mm,
that kind of stuff and all that, right? But let's say you're not interested in any of that. you can still watch it as a Bond movie. That upper layer is still exists
Right.
because the set pieces are great. You have action adventure. You have all this kind of stuff. So I'm like, even if I don't want to tax my brains, it's
Mm.
still working.
Yeah.
Now that for me is a very perfect kind of commercial film writing, where the film
Yeah.
works on this double level. One level is for the uninitiated; they just
Mm.
want that surface pleasure of a movie. I'm going. I don't want to like. I'm going to relax. I don't want to use my brains. I'm just going to sit and
Right.
like I'm going to come back.
Hmm.
So it's entertaining at that level. It's also entertaining for those who are like, I'm going to a movie because I want to engage with the movie. I want to converse with the movie. I want to like dig
Like
into the
a
subtext and all
perfect
that.
example would be Skyfall, right? Skyfall on the level, it's a great action piece. And on the level that you're talking about, the deeper level, it's like it's examining if Bond is even relevant in today's times. Is he even needed,
Exactly,
right?
exactly. Yeah,
So
because that is the thing that's happening.
yeah.
And even if Nolan explains so much, there still will be people who don't get it. So
Mm.
I'm saying he's kind of making his own movies a little, he's kind of devaluing those films by so much of like explanation.
Right.
So I'm not saying that there should not be dialogue, there should not be something. To some extent, you are working in a commercial medium. To some
Mm.
extent, all this is kind of important.
Right.
But I feel that overdoing things,
Mm.
that's what's really,
Right. And as his career progresses, do you think he's becoming less of a storyteller and becoming more of a great planner, right? And probably the planning of the plot and the way the things come together in the end is what is really more visible in the movies as the career goes by. For example, Interstellar, Dunkirk is a good example of convoluted timelines which all come together in the end. Do you think he's becoming a good planner and losing his storytelling part?
see, planning is a part of storytelling. You
Hmm.
cannot like write a story without some kind of overall diagram or plan in mind. It's
Right.
like that's so I wouldn't call the planning, but I know what you mean. So so for me, what I'm interested in, or some one part of me that likes him is really worried, is like yes, you're doing these permutations and combinations of mucking around with time, right?
Mm.
Like every movie of yours is kind of doing this time thing, or whatever it is, past present, this that. In Dunkirk, the movie is kind of actually doing things in three timelines.
Yeah.
uh, uh, but somehow when I see Dunkirk, right, i'm not i'm not I'm not into the movie.
Hmm.
I'm sitting back and I'm like enjoying a like a kind of a I'm looking from a distance. I'm not really into the movie. Whereas when I see Prestige, my head is saying, "Oh my God, what a brilliant bit of plotting and this and that and all that," and my heart is going out to all the characters and saying, "Oh my God, I wish this something happened. I wish this guy doesn't lose. I wish this guy doesn't die. I wish this person is alive. Whatever, you know."
Right.
So like that head and heart engagement is happening in
Mm.
Prestige, in Memento. In Memento is like it's brilliant because he's
Yeah.
doing the time thing like from back to front, and you're lost like that person because
Mm.
you're like you want that guy to find out who he is, what happened, not lose that little phone number that he's got or whatever it is. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
But these later movies, I have like, I'm very detached to them. It's like I'm enjoying the clockworkness of these movies,
Mm.
but I'm not really getting into these movies like okay, you died, okay, whatever,
Yeah.
you lived, okay, whatever. It's not
Right.
that big surge of emotion is not happening to me. So
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm one person who, I love crying at the movies, I love
Mm.
laughing at the movies, I love that emotional impact, right? That's not happening to me with his films. They're
You
like a
anyways don't laugh at Nolan's movies, sir. So let's skip that.
yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And tell me this: you were writing about the problem of making everything seem greater than it is, right? Like in your Interstellar piece, and it kind of took me to a reference where Tarkovsky once said regarding Space Odyssey that why is this landing of a spaceship a big event in the movie? It is supposed to be a routine thing that is supposed to happen every day. Why is the commercialism of American cinema highlighting that as one of the biggest things to ever happen with this loud grand music? And is that happening with Nolan as well? Like, for example, entering the wormhole in Interstellar, it should be a run in the mill entry, right? But it's just grandified to make it look like one of the best scenes ever, and it is a great scene. And
It's a
what's your
great
comment
scene.
to that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But see, I think it's one. There are two answers to this question. One
Hmm.
is just the way Hollywood likes to present things versus the way Tarkovsky is an extreme example of when you look at Solaris, you don't even think it's science fiction. It's like
Yeah.
it's almost like it's in the realm of dreams or
Hmm.
that kind of a thing. It's not even like sci-fi. It's almost like about the subconscious. You think of it as that kind of a movie. It's not.
Hmm.
Like even though technically it is sci-fi,
Hmm.
like I don't look at it as sci-fi. Whereas when you look at the spaceship docking and all that in 2001, I don't think you have to also look at time. See, it is not. You have to look at the fact that it's the late 60s
Yeah.
and the space age has just begun in the US, and you're looking at how do I put it? What Kubrick is doing is he's slowing down time.
Mm.
He's not showing you like this fast moving thing just like land there or whatever it is. He's slowly kind of showing you like it's what it must be like. So he's making you feel space time.
Right.
He's making you feel what time is like in space.
Hmm.
And I think that's the key to that sequence, not the fact that he's grandifying it or something like that to
Right.
kind of give it a term. I think he's really making you feel the slowness, the majesty of that space time.
Hmm.
Whereas when you look at it, it's like what so he kind of slows you down to the extent that the rest of the movie he's acclimatizing you to the pace of that film. So
Right.
when that hostess, when that stewardess kind of she walks that half circle. She
Mm.
kind of like this. She goes like this. She goes like
Yeah.
this. She goes like 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 this. Then she enters or whatever it is. There's no need to
Mm.
show all that because it's like you already shown that it's kind of a thing. You've already shown a man running doing
Yeah.
his jogging or whatever it is in a 360 degree thing. So
Right.
there, but what it is Kubrick is building that rhythm into your system so that
Mm.
you are slowed down and you watch the movie with this rhythm because that rhythm is what is going to drive the movie from then on. There is even when you look at Hal dying, the computer dying,
Yeah.
or rather when Hal is being killed
Mm.
to kind of a thing, it's like it's such a slow sequence. It's like don't kill me, Dave. Dave, I'm dying, Dave. It's not like when you think of murder, you think
Yeah.
of oh my god, one assassination, something so something so fast.
Mm.
But here he's slowing down time. And that's the beauty of the sequence. And I'm very surprised Tarkovsky said something like that because the point isn't the grandiosity of the sequence at all. The
Yeah.
point is the slowing down of everything.
Right.
And I think, but I guess it's also the sensibility, the Hollywood sensibility versus the stark Russian
Right.
sensibility. But also, generally speaking, I would never trust, in the sense of I would never take at face value what one filmmaker says about another, because
Yeah.
very often it comes out of a certain sense of competition or a certain sense of somebody's gotten recognition for their space movie, whereas mine is known as an art movie, whereas
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that's a box office hit.
Mm.
So
Mm.
you don't know, it's a little confusing. But I mean, of course, Tarkovsky's Solaris is great, but that slows down time even more because it's
Yeah.
like that's a different trip altogether.
It's a trip. Yeah.
But so I think what Nolan does in that term, see why the Nolan Kubrick comparison comes is because see Kubrick basically is this never before never again kind of filmmaker. Whether
Okay.
you think of him as a genius or not, that's a different matter.
Hmm.
But he basically took like a whole bunch of genres and made one definitive movie in each genre.
Yeah.
That to me is this man's success. he
Right.
he he kind of dived in so deeply into the horror movie,
Yes.
the war movie, the space movie, the whatever, every kind of thing you're talking about, the historical Barry Lyndon.
Mm.
Every movie is some kind of like almost like a stripping down the genre elements
Mm.
and and rebuilding them in a way that only, which is why I think many people, when you tell them that Shining is a horror movie and you make them watch it for the first time, they're like, oh my god, why is this so scary or something? But that's not the point. It's not
Mm.
meant to make you scream or something like that. The point is how he rebuilds the horror movie, how he refashions the horror movie with his eyes. I
Right.
think that's what the Shining thing is. It's a thing, and which is why Stephen King hated it, because he was like, this doesn't resemble my book anymore, because I
Yeah.
wrote a book, and this is what has he done with my book.
Yeah.
But that's that. So I think what Nolan tries to do sometimes is, because he wants that respectability.
Mm.
So he tries to make things sound very profound, and that profundity he undercuts by having these banal lines of dialogue. See, one thing I think we can all agree on is that man is not a great dialogue writer.
Mm.
I don't. There are very, very few
Sure.
lines of dialogue in his movie which actually stand out, like oh my god, this is such a great line, or something like that. They're all
Mm.
very functional, very, very simple explanatory kind of lines. I really don't think that there's too much going on where that you can call him. So I think that's the real thing where you're talking about the Kubrick versus Nolan thing, is like, because he takes uh like what should be a simple genre piece, and he
Mm.
wants to rebuild it just like Kubrick rebuilt these
Right.
things. But then Kubrick was doing things with different genres, so each
Mm.
movie seems different. Whereas this man is kind of trying to do the time thing in different genre. So
Stories. Yeah.
in Tenet it's the James Bond genre. In
Mm.
Interstellar it's the sci-fi genre. In
Seems-
Dunkirk it's a war movie. So he's trying to do
Yeah.
what Kubrick did in movie after movie,
Right.
but with a time thing.
Sure.
And the time thing is becoming gimmicky for me, because
Mm.
see, there are many filmmakers who made the same movie over and over again. John Ford essentially made westerns all his life.
Sure.
Most of it. I'm sure of course he made other movies also, but I'm just saying generally,
Yeah.
like when I'm saying all their life, I mean about 90% of what they did.
Right.
Hitchcock made the same kind of suspense slash thriller all his life.
Sure.
But when you look at each Hitchcock movie, the base may be same. He loved to show this trope of this innocent man on the run from the police,
Mm.
a man or like in the case of North by Northwest, a man who is mistaken to be somebody else,
Sure.
but he's being chased for the wrong reasons. Basically, either they're being chased for the wrong reasons, or they're really innocent and they're thought of guilty, or whatever it is.
Right.
That was the basic one line.
Yeah.
But then movie after movie, you don't feel the sameness.
Mm.
You don't feel the because the one thing that Hitchcock always did was he always picked up short stories or books that interested him and translated them into.
Sure.
So it was always a literary property that. But when you're thinking out of your own mind and redoing something,
Mm.
I think that this man has gotten to a point of like gimmickry, where I think his genius for plotting and kind of a thing.
Mm.
Like I'm saying that Nolan might do well to consider this. Like you basically think of this great plot, you think of this thing, and then you hand it over to a different screenwriter, so that like they kind of find their rhythms with it rather than it being his own rhythms. I think
The
that might.
point the point I wanted to make next was like uh, his characters were actually some interesting characters who were battling their own conflicts in the first few movies, right? But the later on, his characters kind of became this plot devices only to further his ideas, and just to show, just it they became chess pieces to show how great his game is.
Yeah, that's a brilliant way of putting it. Chess pieces to show how brilliant his game is. It's like
Mm.
and that's why I think it's kind of like I don't when I came out of Dunkirk,
Mm.
it just struck me that I didn't remember one character. Like not one character stuck with me in terms of
Yeah.
when most movies finish, you follow them through the journey of one character, right? You kind
Mhm.
of like take a basic example like Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
You basically you say either Matt Damon or Tom Hanks. One of them you kind of follow through the movie and kind of say, oh
Mm.
wow, like that character really stuck in my head. Or sometimes it's a memorable supporting character that sticks in your head. Or sometimes basically you take home people.
Mm.
See, people always plot is the mechanism through which characters come to life.
Right.
Whereas for Nolan, its characters are the mechanism through which his plot is unfolded. So that's the difference. Yes, at a cerebral level, it sounds like wow, wonderful. He's reinventing the basics of this thing.
Yeah.
But I can't walk home with the plot. I walk home with characters. They are the ones who register. I don't know if you've seen this web series called The Queen's Gambit, but
Uh-huh.
when you finish watching it, you're like, you want that girl to do all the, like, win,
Sure.
you're rooting for that girl. That's your
Sure.
primal thing.
Sure.
And there are these other characters around, you kind of like them, you're laughing with them, you're waiting, oh my god, I wish this guy, I mean, you're waiting for them to, like, oh, I missed this guy, he was not there in this episode, maybe next episode he'll
Mm.
come back, because he was this funny presence or whatever it is. Those characters are like, what are, so that the plot remains invisible.
Yeah.
Those characters are taking you through the plot.
Mm.
Whereas here is the reverse. You're marveling at the plot,
Yeah.
but at the cost of the characters, because they are so basic that beyond the point, they're like like you're not giving me much. Like you're giving me 2.5 hours or 2 hours and 45 minutes of Interstellar. I would have liked that brother sister father angle to be much more than what it is right now.
Sure. Sure. And
Not in an emotional crying sense, but
Mm.
there's a lot that happens in a dynamic when a man shoots off into space and his family is left behind,
Mm.
right? So
Yeah.
you're reintroducing the girl when she is the same age as when Matthew McConaughey left Earth. Jessica
Sure.
Chastain, when the
Sure.
little
Sure.
girl becomes Jessica Chastain,
Yeah.
you're reintroducing her. I mean, why you waiting for like so much more time to get the brother back into the picture, like in a
Mm.
proper way? When she burns the crops and things like that and all that. So
Because it's a chess piece.
he's a chess piece, because you want that thing to be set in motion,
Mm.
and therefore at that point you're kind of there. And I think that's what, see, this is a very complicated thing, because in our country most people they think only on polar terms, right?
Okay.
A movie either sucks or a movie rocks.
Mm.
Somebody, an actor sucks or he rocks. Like a director sucks or movies are like people; they're complicated.
Right.
So for me, Nolan is a guy who is a complicated emotion for me, because I love a lot of what he does. I also don't like a lot of what he does.
Mm.
So I will never say that he's a bad filmmaker or he's an overrated filmmaker. Never. I would never say that. But at the same time, this cult kind of puzzles me, because it's almost like you can't say one word against this man, because it's like, oh my god, it's a movie. He's a filmmaker. Of course, he can take the criticism. He's like, I mean, isn't it enough that you have hundreds of people?
Did you remember
like
that? Did you remember that episode where fans kind of blocked the critics of Dark Knight Rises and so on?
Yeah, I'm like, why? What is this need for universal acclaim? Just, I mean, aren't you happy that there are many people like you whistling when his name comes on or whatever? Like,
Right.
what is the need for everybody to? And that removes nuance from understanding, because at like it is okay for a great director to have certain blind spots. It's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what makes him human.
Right.
Just because Nolan has some faults doesn't take away the genius of his plotting or whatever it is. It's not like either or. It's not like he's either a great guy or with no faults at all, or a bad guy with nothing but faults. Like everybody else, like every other filmmaker, like Hitchcock,
Every
like
human
Kubrick,
being.
and like Hitchcock, like Kubrick, like many other filmmakers, anybody you take, like John Ford had a terrible taste in comedy. It's just like, you bring in these really weird comic characters at his kind of a thing. But is he a great director? Absolutely. Because like there's a sense of classic storytelling that you watch 5 John Ford movies, you'll really become a screenwriter.
Sure.
So it's this either or that really baffles me. It's like you either say that he's a goddamn genius with like zero flaws, or you say he's a hack. It's not that easy for anybody,
Sure.
And it's certainly not easy for Chris Nolan. So
for furthering little minute hacks, talk about the women characters in Christopher Nolan movies. Are they like one of the most dullest characters? They're either killed or they are just there to further the guy's grief, and there is nothing powerful coming out of those characters. Or is there maybe in Interstellar or not? What are your thoughts on that?
see, Interstellar, you have a fairly powerful woman character, right? Because
Sure.
she's like she's the one who basically figures out the clue, so to speak.
Yeah.
And whereas her brother is this guy who's just basically shown as a dumb guy who's just like pretty much like not a science guy or whatever it is. It's the daughter who's the thing. In Inception, I thought he overdid that longing for a loved one thing with the
Mall character.
Yeah, she kind of. I thought that was like it was nice up to a point, but the way it just went on, he was treating it like a little French movie, like and
Mm,
it's just like it was kind of getting in the way of the other movie, because the other movie was so much kind of more exciting.
mm,
And and when you look at something like I don't know, Catwoman doesn't work for me. I don't like that character is not written very interestingly. It's like she the way she's brought in and all that. uh I mean, I have a feeling that somehow he has this, like, he's one of those guys who places his interest in the central characters who actually drive the plot forward. The
right.
rest of the characters are pretty much flavor, so they don't really
Mm,
like a thing. Like for instance, if you look at the Michael Caine character in Prestige
sure.
and the Michael Caine character in Interstellar, you'll see a clear difference. You love the guy in Prestige because he's like really like almost like a father figure, like a mentor, like a something.
Sure.
Whereas in Interstellar, what's he doing?
Sure. Excellent
So
example. Moving on from there, did you feel anything Bollywoodish about Christopher Nolan in the sense that typical Bollywoodish dialogues, right? Like love transcends through time, and I won't leave you. You come back here for love and all that. It's just
yeah. See, again, see, that seems like that because he's not a good dialogue writer.
mm,
So the thing is, when these are these are things that love transfers through time, whatever it is,
sure.
that is what should be conveyed.
Mm,
But the line should be written differently so that the line sounds good and you get this sense from it.
sure.
What he does is he takes that essence itself and makes it dialogue.
Sure. Got you.
So
Got you.
that is why it sounds a little like banal,
Mm,
with whatever it is. It's like it sounds even cheesy sometimes, because it's like
yeah.
I was watching when I saw Interstellar for the first time, and I was like, you know, that Robert Frost
Poem.
poem. What is it? It's like
Do not go gentle into the.
"Do Not Go Gently." I'm like, it's there in the movie some 6 7 times. I
Sure.
think I'm not mistaken. I'm like, wow, you really want us to like get it, like it's just like, what is this, how many times and how many ways does it come in? My God, it's like
Sure.
it's unrelenting, and it's like he wants. See, I think part of him wants to treat it like a motif that's
Mm,
coming, but it becomes, in his hands, these gentle things become very literal. He's a literalist. He can't let things float away. Now, like for example, uh, when you're looking at like Fellini, for instance, there's a lot of his films that, even though they are set in the real world, they have a dreamlike texture. They just
mhm.
float, like the scenes will just float because they have this dreamlike texture. With Nolan in Inception, he's inside a dream, but it doesn't feel like a like the it feels so literal. It doesn't feel like there are these this half awake, half asleep kind of thing that's happening, kind of thing,
It's
because
not
he's
it's not like you're in a sensory deprivation tank. It's like you're in a machine.
you're in a machine. You're being manipulated, and
Mm,
that works to an extent. And the set pieces are really, some of them are like mind boggling, and
mm,
that's why we love Hollywood, right? Because they
yeah.
do these things so amazingly. But yeah, I just like, I think it's important that these conversations are had about all filmmakers,
Sure.
like for example, there are so many filmmakers that we like, and it's not that they're bad, but everybody has things that sometimes they're not able to pull off to their maximum. And I think these are okay. I mean, it's not the end
Yeah.
of the world. I mean,
Yeah.
just because you think, like, I think this comes from the fact that we try to deify filmmakers and we want
Sure.
them to be gods, and God means perfection. So I'm saying, why do we want to make filmmakers and actors gods? It's
Yeah.
like we treat them like human beings, and when they succeed, we succeed. It's like a like I always find this in sports, like, in Australia, India has a horrible defeat, and oh my
Yeah.
God, this is the worst team ever. Something. The very
Mm.
next match they win, and oh my God, India is like amazing. Like, the reactions are so extreme. I'm like, the same people were saying like shit things about India like just
Yeah.
1 week back, and now suddenly, like, they're like, oh, so part of it is also the fact that we're all very emotionally volatile people. It's like
Right.
we're all like
Yeah.
it's just so driven by emotion that you kind of don't
let's
you know
let's let's disturb that volatility with a couple of more little technical nitpicks that I have. One thing is the sound versus the dialogue audibility in Nolan's films. What's your comment on it? Is that deliberate? What can possibly be the logic behind that if it's deliberate?
So I don't know. See, I don't know if it's deliberate or he's just saying that it's deliberate because the mixing
Yeah.
happens. I see because one thing is I am always with the people
Mm,
who say that the dialogue should be heard clearly. For me, that's important
yes.
because you sound effects guys are important. But
Mm,
let's say somebody's standing like on a in the rain, right?
mm-hmm.
And they're speaking something that I need to hear.
Yeah.
I need to hear what they say clearly despite the rain sound.
Sure.
Because otherwise I'm losing stuff and I'm getting very irritated because that person is saying something and I'm not hearing what they're saying.
Sure.
So unless that person is babbling something and the intentionally you're obscuring that babbling by saying that, so it becomes a meta thing.
Mm,
Unless that's happening, if the person is saying something of note that drives the plot forward, I need to effing know that.
yeah. Sure thing.
So I don't agree with this whole
Meta thing.
the
Yeah.
that thing at all. Because then if you can do that, then why not write a silent scene?
Sure.
Right?
Exactly.
It's like
Yeah.
why do I need to have dialogue and then have it overlaid with sound to the
Mm,
extent that I cannot hear the dialogue properly?
right.
Right?
Right.
So then what you're doing is I'm getting my best experience of that film only through subtitles.
Mm-mm. That's true. True.
So then I know exactly what's happening.
Yep. One last nitpick is I do a little bit of editing, and I love the way he edits the parallel action scenes, especially in the
Oh yeah,
climaxes.
yeah.
It's just brilliant the way he cuts here and there. I don't like the way he edits his fights. You really don't see the punch land. Everything is so blurry and obscure,
Yeah.
and the
I
only
remember one of the in the I
the
forget which one of the Batman movies had a crazy build up, but the fight itself was so chaotic that you couldn't see who was where, and it was just like a blur of action. I forget maybe Dark Knight Rises if I'm not mistaken.
Dark Knight
So
Rises for me had the most decent fight scenes because you can actually see the Bane punching and breaking this guy's
no,
back.
no, sorry, the second one, The Dark Knight. I think that's the
The
one.
Dark Knight,
Sorry,
yes.
the yeah, I think that's the one where I'm talking about. Because see, if you look at the difference between the way Michael Mann stages the bank heist in Heat
Yes.
versus the way Nolan stages the bank heist in with the Joker,
Mm.
you'll know what I'm talking about. Because in Heat, not only it's like I'm getting goosebumps as I talk because I just love that movie and Michael Mann is one of my all-time favorite directors, like pure directors. He's
Sure.
not screenwriters as much, but as directors, he is a man who's so cinematic in his thinking that even as he stages stuff, you're aware of the bank. You know where everything is.
Mm.
You know where things are coming. You know when they're stepping out of the bank. You know which way the cops are coming. You know how the shootout is happening. You know which side of the road they're on. You know how he's running. The cutting and the action is so in sync that
Sure.
you are completely aware of it. Whereas in the Joker scene, you're kind of it's a chaos, and some defenders will say, well, the Joker is about chaos, and so this chaos is mirroring that chaos or whatever it is. But I don't know. Sometimes in an action scene, you want to feel that you're in the action. You
Right.
are. That's why I think the like to go back to the I think the James Bond films. I'll tell you the one scene. Was it Skyfall that begins with that Mexican that Day of the Dead or something like this?
Yeah.
This
No. The
long
the
action.
next James Bond movie. The oh God, it's
Whatever.
off my
Yeah.
mind. Yeah.
So I saw it and I was like a little child in a candy shop,
Yeah.
because it's like first there's the big tracking shot, that one shot that goes in, that single shot, and then he goes inside, kills somebody, comes out on the parapet, he starts walking, then a wall just falls, and then there's a helicopter,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh my god! Just when you think a climax has happened for that action scene, it
Mm.
builds and it builds and it builds, and I'm like so like I'm filled with utter glee, because
Sure.
I'm like, wow, this is amazing. That kind of pleasure I've never gotten in Nolan's action scenes.
Right.
So
Sure. Well, sir, this has been such a fascinating episode. But before I let you go, sir, let me please tell the importance of having a conversation like this, because very few conversations are happening like this, not only on Nolan but on cult figures in general, from any walk of life, sport, cinema, cricket or like whatever, right? So why should we have more conversations like this, and why aren't the conversations happening?
See, I think it's very important to have these conversations because one is it like it it depends on okay again it depends on how you like cinema because if you're like remember we talked about the two layers, right? It's
Sure.
like if you're just the superficial layer, upper layer, and I'm not judging people, right? Because you are everybody's perfectly fine to take whatever they want,
Yeah.
but but I think conversations like these help, and I'm really thankful to you for kind of like nudging me because like an interviewer is very important in these cases, like, and the way you nudge people because you're it's basically helping both of us articulates our thoughts about a very important filmmaker of our times who's like undoubtedly the defining mainstream commercial filmmaker of our time. But
Absolutely.
at the same time it's important to realize some things that are, I'm not doing this because I want Christopher Nolan to hear this and therefore change. I mean, like, who am I, right? It's like that's not the point. But the point is this exchange of ideas is it kind of helps us kind of bring forth certain uh, concepts of what we think is cinema. And because we are not just armchair watchers, we are not just sitting in an armchair and relaxing and saying, okay, throw it at me, whatever it is. If I like it, I'll watch it. Otherwise, I'll look at my smartphone. We are not like that. We are
Sure.
very intense movie watchers because we want to get into it. We want to see every second of it. We get irritated with the guy in the next seat or the girl in the next seat when he or she like flashes the phone.
Yeah.
Like the phone goes on light or whatever it is. It's like, wow, can't you
Yep.
watch the movie like the rest of us? Why are you giving this extra source of light which which is blinding the corner of my eye? So we are really like that. And I think these conversations help to like build these questions or whatever it is. And
Sure.
I think it's important because just like some of this, like this Tarkovsky helped me articulate the Kubrick thing. I think those kinds of things are important too, because one thing I definitely believe is that and again, this is maybe only me, but I do believe that films exist on a historical continuum.
Sure.
It's like and it's especially like so it's like it's not like Nolan just erupted out of nowhere. Nolan draws from a tradition that came before him, which came from a tradition before them, which came from a tradition from before them. So
Sure.
it's like everybody builds on that famous saying, standing on the shoulders of giants. That is happening all the time. So I think it's very important to have these conversations for both broader historical context as well as a deep down dive into a particular filmmaker and his particular filmmaking.
Sure. And that is the note I'd like to end this podcast, sir. One thing I'd like to tell my viewers, I was a Nolan cult boy, fanboy, but when I read Jim Emerson's piece in Roger Ebert's page about his, too many uses of cuts in while editing a scene and all that, I'm having this conversation with you because I have read that piece like 10 years ago. And it's so important to read something that is against the grain of your popular belief or opinion, so that you can widen your horizons. And that is the point I'm trying to make. And on that note, sir, thank you very, very much for your gracious time. I hope you had a great conversation. I certainly did,
I had a
enjoyed it.
great time. Thank you so much for having me, and let's do something else in the future.
Sure, hopefully. Thank you very much. Thank you very much,
Thanks
listeners.
so
Till
much.
we see you next time with another episode. Bye, everyone.